Okay, so today we're going on something a little different. Oppositional Defiant disorder.
ODD.
Yeah, ODD in adults. You've probably heard about it with kids, right?
Right.
But what happens when those, quote, challenging behaviors stick around into adulthood?
Yeah, it's a great question. And
We're going to unpack.
It's something a lot of people don't really consider.
We're going way past just like, oh, they're difficult.
Exactly.
To like what's really going on with ODD. And to guide us on this deep dive.
We're looking at this article from attitudemag.com.
Yeah, they're taking a look at ODD in adults. Some of the surprising ways it can show up.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
Some of the things that we're going to talk about are the genetic component.
Okay.
That constant feeling of anger that people with ODD experience.
Oh.
And even the possibility that ODD can develop into something more serious.
Oh, wow. Okay, so first, like, what even is it?
Yeah, so ODD is not just having a bad day or being stubborn. It's an actual diagnosis with criteria.
Okay.
And to be diagnosed with it, you have to have a persistent pattern of these behaviors for at least 6 months with at least 4 specific symptoms.
So this is beyond just being a little grumpy.
Oh, absolutely.
These symptoms, like, really affect people's lives.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like a coworker who just has to, like, pick apart every idea in a meeting, even if it jeopardizes their career.
Right.
You know, that constant need to oppose, to challenge authority. It's like almost like they can't help themselves.
Yeah, so it's not just behaviors.
No, it's not.
The article talks about the emotional experience.
Right.
Like people with ODD are constantly angry, feeling misunderstood.
Right. They always feel like they're the victim.
Oh. Wow.
Like the world is against them.
Yeah.
Every interaction is a battle.
And that can lead to some like really tough situations.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in relationships at work, everywhere.
Exactly.
And the article talked about the possibility of it developing into something more serious.
Yeah. So about 40% of people with ODD will eventually develop antisocial personality disorder.
Okay, so we're not talking about just being unsociable.
No, not at all. We're talking about disregard for the rights and safety of others.
Okay.
It can be really serious, and it underscores the importance of understanding and addressing ODD.
Early on.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let's break down these symptoms a bit more.
Sure.
Like, what are we actually looking for?
So one key element is the need to win every argument.
Every argument.
Even over the smallest things.
Even if it's like, what are we having for dinner?
Exactly. It's like they just can't let anything go.
Wow.
No matter how illogical or damaging it becomes.
Okay, and it's not just arguing with, like, their peers or their friends. It's this, like, intense defiance against any authority figure.
Any authority. So we could be talking about teachers, bosses, parents, even just someone offering a suggestion.
So like pushing back against a dress code at work.
Yeah, exactly. Or refusing to follow simple instructions.
Wow. And then the article also mentioned this deliberate act of annoying other people.
Right. It's not playful teasing. It's intentional and meant to provoke.
So it's not just like, I'm going to hide your keys.
No.
It's like, I'm going to do something to really get under your skin.
Yeah, like imagine living with someone who just constantly pushes your buttons.
Oh, that sounds so frustrating.
It's incredibly difficult to deal with.
And I can imagine this pattern of behavior, like it can really damage things.
Oh, yeah.
Relationships, jobs.
Absolutely.
It can lead to isolation.
It can be really destructive.
And that's why it's so important to understand that this is a real mental health condition.
It's not just a personality quirk.
Not just like, oh, they're being difficult.
Exactly. We need to understand the neurology behind it.
Okay.
The way that their brains are wired differently makes it really hard for them to regulate their emotions and control their impulses.
So if it's not just a choice,
right,
then where does this come from?
Well, it seems to be a combination of nature and nurture.
Okay. The article mentions a strong genetic component that ODD often runs in families.
Okay, so that's the nature part.
Right.
But it's not like everyone with a family history of it develops ODD.
Exactly.
So there must be more to it.
There is early childhood experiences play a huge role.
Okay.
Things like inconsistent parenting, trauma, neglect.
Wow. So these can contribute to...
Yeah, they can lead to a skewed worldview.
Okay.
Where distrust and defiance become coping mechanisms.
So it's not just willpower.
No.
Or choosing to be difficult.
No, it's much deeper than that.
It's like their brains are processing the world differently.
It's a different internal landscape.
So telling someone to like snap out of it.
Right. That's not helpful at all.
That's not going to work.
It completely misses the mark.
Yeah. You can't just tell someone with a broken leg to walk it off.
Exactly.
And this is
It's just not that simple.
similar, right?
Yes, definitely. It's more about helping them to understand their own wiring
Right.
and, giving them tools.
To help them navigate the world.
So let's talk about the tools. What kind of help is out there?
Therapy can be really effective,
Okay.
especially cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT.
CBT, okay.
It helps people identify those negative thought patterns
Oh, okay.
that fuel the anger and defiance.
So like recognizing those moments when their emotions are escalating.
Yeah,
Learning how to respond differently.
exactly. Instead of reacting impulsively, they learn to pause,
Okay.
question those automatic thoughts.
So it's like rewiring those ingrained responses.
Yes, exactly.
Those knee-jerk reactions.
Right. It helps them to choose a more constructive path.
So it's not just about putting out fires, it's preventing them.
Yes, exactly. And CBT can also help with communication skills,
Oh, okay.
problem solving, assertiveness.
So it can really have an impact on all areas of their life.
Absolutely.
What about medication? Can that help?
Sometimes, yeah. Especially if there are other mental health conditions present.
Like anxiety or depression? The article also mentioned family therapy. I imagine that can be really helpful
Oh, yeah, it can be really valuable.
for everyone to understand what's going on.
It helps everyone involved
Yeah.
understand ODD and create a more supportive environment.
Okay, so it's fostering empathy and communication.
Right.
It's moving away from blame and judgment.
Exactly.
What about support groups? Are those helpful?
Support groups can be great
Yeah.
because they provide a sense of community.
Okay.
People can share their experiences and strategies.
It's that sense of not being alone.
Exactly.
So we've got therapy, medication, family support groups. Are there things people can do on their own?
Oh, absolutely. Lifestyle changes can make a big difference.
Like what?
Stress management is huge.
Okay.
So finding healthy outlets for frustration and anger.
Okay.
Exercise, meditation, spending time in nature.
Right, things like that.
Exactly.
So you're recognizing those warning signs early on and being proactive about it.
Yes. And we can't forget the basics.
Like what?
Sleep, diet, exercise.
Right, the foundation.
Exactly. Those can have a huge impact on mood and mental health.
It's amazing how everything's connected.
It really is.
The article also gave some examples
Yeah.
of how ODD plays out in everyday life, like at home and at work.
Right.
So let's talk about relationships first.
Sure.
How might ODD show up there?
Well, imagine a couple where one partner always has to have the last word.
Oh, I know a couple like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It turns every conversation into an argument.
It's exhausting.
Or maybe they use passive-aggressive tactics,
Like what?
doing things to annoy their partner.
Okay, so leaving dirty dishes everywhere
Exactly. Or picking fights over nothing.
just to feel in control.
Right. And this can also show up at work.
Okay, how so?
They might constantly question their boss,
Right.
undermine colleagues, refuse to follow instructions.
The article mentioned someone bringing in smelly food to eat at their desk
Oh, yeah.
just to irritate their coworkers.
Yeah. It's like they're seeking out conflict.
Yeah.
They thrive on it.
And that can create a really toxic environment.
Absolutely.
And not to mention their career.
Right. It can have serious consequences.
It's not just a personal struggle.
No, it affects everyone around them.
The article also talked about a distorted view of reality.
Yes, this is a big part of it.
Can you talk more about that?
People with ODD often believe they're the victim.
Okay.
They feel misunderstood, mistreated.
So if a coworker gives them feedback on a project,
Right.
they take it as a personal attack.
Exactly. And that makes it really hard to have healthy interactions.
It's like they're constantly on guard,
Yes, they're waiting for the next attack.
even if there isn't one coming.
Right.
So how can loved ones support someone with ODD?
Education is really important.
Okay.
Learning about ODD, the symptoms and causes.
So they can be more understanding.
Exactly. And setting clear boundaries.
Oh, right. You mentioned that before.
Yeah, boundaries are crucial.
For creating a safe environment.
Right. You need to communicate those expectations clearly.
And what about when those boundaries are crossed?
You need to enforce consequences.
Okay.
Calmly, but firmly.
And of course, encouraging them to get professional help.
Yes. That's essential.
We've covered a lot today.
We have.
But before we wrap up, I want to talk about the link between ODD and other mental health challenges.
That's important to consider because ODD rarely exists on its own.
So it's often connected to things like anxiety, depression, ADHD,
Exactly.
even substance abuse.
Yes, it can be a complex web of interconnected issues.
So someone listening might be thinking, wow, this sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
Reach out for professional help.
Okay.
A therapist can evaluate and recommend the best course of action.
And I think it's important to say there's no shame in getting help.
Absolutely.
It's actually a sign of strength.
It takes courage to face these challenges.
Okay, so we've talked about the symptoms, the causes, the impact, treatment options.
Right.
As we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listener with something to think about.
I'm listening.
We've talked about ODD as a mental health condition.
Right.
But could some of these behaviors, like questioning authority, challenging the status quo, be a reflection of a larger cultural shift?
That's a really interesting question.
Right.
We live in a time where independent thinking is valued.
Right.
People are encouraged to challenge norms.
What's the line?
Exactly. Where's the line between healthy skepticism and defiance? That's a problem.
It's complicated.
It is. There are no easy answers.
And it reminds us that our understanding of mental health is always changing.
Right.
What's considered a disorder in one context might be a strength in another.
That's a good point.
It's about looking beyond the label and seeing the individual, recognizing their strengths and challenges, and supporting them on their journey.
Well said.
A powerful message.
Yeah.
I feel like we really got into it today.
I think so. It's complex, but it's important to understand it.
For sure. So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this?
Well, the main thing is that ODD is more than just being difficult. It's a real mental health condition that can really affect someone's life and their relationships, their work, everything.
It's about seeing the person behind the behavior.
Exactly. And with the right support, people with ODD can really thrive.
So that's therapy, medication, lifestyle changes.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
And understanding from loved ones.
So to our listener, if any of this resonated with you, if you see yourself in these descriptions or someone you know,
right,
you're not alone.
Absolutely not.
There's help available.
There is.
And there's hope.
Lots of hope.
Don't be afraid to reach out.
Seeking help is a sign of strength.
That's so true. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ODD. We'll see you next time.